You are 32 years old. It is 4:15 in the morning on May 28th, 1944. You are lying perfectly still on the rotting wooden floorboards of a ruined church bell tower in coastal France. The rain is freezing. It has been soaking through your wool uniform for 6 hours. You have not moved. You have not coughed. You have barely blinked. Your resting heart rate is floating at exactly 55 beats per minute. The damp air smells like crushed stone, wet ash, and the faint metallic tang of your own rifle oil. 280 meters below you, a Nazi coastal battery is waking up. Spotlights slice through the fog. Armored vehicles idle in the courtyard. To the rest of the Allied forces preparing to cross the English Channel, this war is about moving massive armies, tanks, and artillery. It is a war volume, but to you, the war is an equation of profound isolation. You are a shadow, deployed by the Office of Strategic Services. You operate alone behind enemy lines. If you are captured, there is no prisoner of war camp waiting for you. The Geneva Convention does not apply to ghosts. You will be handed over to the Gestapo, interrogated in a lightless basement, and executed with a bullet to the back of the neck. You accepted this reality the day you signed the papers in Washington. To understand how an ordinary man becomes a human precision instrument, you have to look at the slow death of your civilian identity. Before the war, you were a watchmaker in Pennsylvania. You spent your days looking through magnifying loupes, understanding how hundreds of microscopic gears interacted to create perfect, reliable movement. You understood patience. You understood that a single millimeter of error meant total failure. You spent your weekends in the Appalachian Mountains, hunting deer with a bolt-action rifle. Your grandfather left you. You never missed. You didn't hunt for the thrill. You hunted for the absolute stillness of the woods. The military recruiters didn't want you for the infantry. The infantry requires men who can scream, charge, and operate in the chaotic brotherhood of a platoon. The OSS recruited you because they recognized a man who was entirely comfortable with complete solitude. They sent you to a classified training facility in Scotland. They stripped away your name, your past, and your empathy. They taught you how to calculate windage, bullet drop, and barometric pressure in your head. They taught you that a target is not a human being with a family, a past, or a future. A target is simply a biometric engine composed of soft tissue, bone, and organs. They taught you to look at a man and see only the geometric center of his mass. You learned the cold, unforgiving math of ballistics. You learned how to end a life from half a mile away without ever looking your victim in the eyes. The transformation wasn't sudden. The first time you shot a man in North Africa, your hands shook for 3 hours afterward. You threw up your rations behind a sand dune. You remembered his face. By your 5th kill in Italy, you only remembered the distance. By your 20th kill, you didn't remember anything at all. The violence became administrative. You pull the trigger, a problem is solved, and you move to the next vantage point, which brings you to the bell tower in France. 5:30 in the morning. Your target today is an Obergruppenführer. Military intelligence confirms he is carrying the primary logistical blueprints for Operation Kraken, a classified Nazi naval strategy that could devastate the incoming Allied invasion fleet. He is scheduled to inspect the coastal gun battery at dawn. You are looking through the telescopic sight of your M1903 Springfield rifle. It is a beautifully engineered machine, heavy, oiled, and reliable. You chamber a single .30 caliber round. The bolt slides forward with a quiet, satisfying click. The psychology of sniping is 99% waiting and 1% absolute execution. Your muscles ache. Your stomach is completely empty. A spider is crawling across the back of your left hand, and you do not twitch. You control your breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. You have disconnected your mind from the physical suffering of your body. At 6:15, a black Mercedes staff car rolls into the courtyard of the military compound below. The guards snap to attention. The heavy iron doors of the coastal battery swing open. The Obergruppenführer steps out of the vehicle. He is wearing a heavy leather trench coat. He is smoking a cigarette. He is surrounded by 4 elite guards carrying submachine guns. You check the wind. You look at the dust kicking up near the tires of the staff car. The wind is blowing off the channel at 8 knots from the west. You reach up and click the windage dial on your scope twice. You factor in the humidity and the slight downward angle of the shot. The crosshairs rest precisely 3 inches to the right of the officer's chest to account for the wind drift. You do not shoot yet. In this line of work, the sound of a high-powered rifle echoing across a quiet French valley is a death sentence. It would instantly reveal your position. You need a mask. You look past the courtyard to the massive coastal artillery cannons perched on the cliffs. The Nazi engineers are running a test firing sequence. A red warning light begins to spin. The crew prepares to load a massive artillery shell. You have watched their rhythm for 2 hours. You know exactly how long the sequence takes. You exhale slowly. You wait for the bottom of your breath. That split second of total biological stillness before your lungs demand air again. The coastal can fires. The earth, shaking boom, physically rattles the stone walls of your bell tower. In the exact microsecond that the cannon roar drowns out the world, your finger applies 3 pounds of pressure to the trigger. The rifle kicks hard against your bruised shoulder. The casing ejects. Time seems to slow down into a series of hyper-focused mechanical events. The bullet leaves the muzzle at 2,800 feet per second. You have conditioned your brain to visualize the internal ballistics of the strike. You see the round cut through the freezing morning fog. You see it spiral perfectly over the courtyard. The bullet strikes the officer exactly where the math dictated. It enters the left side of his rib cage. The immense kinetic energy of the .30 caliber round shatters his fourth rib. The bullet mushrooms, tearing through the left lung, creating a massive temporary cavity that pulverizes the surrounding tissue. It severs the aorta. It shatters the spine on its exit path, tearing through the heavy leather of his coat. The officer collapses to the cobblestones before the sound of his own death even reaches him. His cigarette rolls into a puddle. The guards around him panic. They raise their weapons, looking wildly at the rooftops, the trees, the hills. They are terrified. They don't know where the strike came from. The sound masking worked perfectly. To them, it looks like their commander was just struck by invisible lightning, but your job is not finished. A sniper does not just kill. A sniper extracts. You slide the rifle back into its canvas drop bag. You sling it over your shoulder. You begin the descent down the crumbling stone spiral staircase of the church. The base of the church is occupied. An enemy patrol has commandeered the rectory. You hear heavy boots walking across the wooden floorboards. German voices complaining about the cold. You do not draw your rifle. You reach to your belt and unholster your well rod. It is a British-made bolt-action pistol with an integrated suppressor. It looks like a piece of black plumbing pipe. It is the quietest assassination weapon ever engineered. You slip into the shadows of the rectory hallway. A single guard is standing by a window, smoking. He is 20 years old. He has a picture of a girl tucked into the band of his helmet. You do not think about the girl. You do not think about his mother in Berlin. You step up behind him. Absolute silence. You place the muzzle of the well rod directly against the base of his skull. You pull the trigger. There is a dull metallic clack. No bang, no flash. Just the sound of the bolt striking and the terrible, wet sound of the impact. You catch his body before it hits the ground. You lower him to the floor gently, as if you are putting a child to sleep. You take the extra ammunition from his webbing. You leave the photograph. You slip out the back door of the church and into the dense, overgrown brush of the French countryside. The alarm at the coastal battery finally sounds. The sirens wail, tearing through the morning air. Trucks are mobilizing. Dogs are barking. The entire regional garrison is locking down the sector. They are hunting a ghost, and the ghost is already 2 miles away, moving through the waist-high grass of an apple orchard. You walk for 6 hours. You avoid the main roads. You freeze every time a military convoy rumbles past. You exist in a state of absolute vibrating paranoia. Every snap twig is a threat. Every shadow is a sniper. You are running software designed for pure survival, constantly evaluating lines of sight, cover, and concealment. At noon, you reach the rendezvous point. It is a dilapidated farmhouse on the edge of a forgotten village. You knock on the wooden door. 2 knocks, a pause, 3 knocks. The door opens. A young French woman is standing there. She is part of the Maquis, the French resistance. She is holding a rusted Sten gun. Her hands are dirty, and her eyes are exhausted. She ushers you inside. The farmhouse smells like baking bread and wood smoke. It is disarmingly normal. There is a family sitting around a wooden table. They are eating thin soup. They look at you with a mixture of awe and absolute terror. To them, you are a myth. The invisible American who kills Nazi commanders and vanishes into thin air. The young woman hands you a cup of hot ersatz coffee. It tastes like burnt chicory and mud, but it is the greatest thing you have ever consumed. She asks you, in broken English, if the operation was a success. You nod. You take a sip of the coffee. You don't offer details. You don't tell her about the bone fragments or the blood pooling on the cobblestones. You don't tell her about the kid in the rectory with a photograph in his helmet. She smiles. She touches your arm. She says you are a hero. She says you are saving her country. You look at her hand on your sleeve, and you realize the profound, unbridgeable distance between you and the people you are fighting to liberate. She is fighting for her home. She is fighting with passion, anger, and love. She feels every loss and celebrates every victory. You feel absolutely nothing. You sit in the corner of the farmhouse, cleaning the bolt of your rifle with an oily rag. You watch the family eat. You watch the children play with a wooden toy on the floor. You try to remember what it felt like to be a civilian. You try to remember the smell of the watch shop in Pennsylvania. You try to remember the feeling of sitting in a quiet room without mentally calculating the bullet penetration value of the walls around you. But the memory is gone. It has been overwritten by ballistics charts, kill confirmations, and the precise anatomy of the human cardiovascular system. You realize the darkest, most terrifying truth of the elite soldier. You thought you were making a sacrifice for the war effort. You thought you were doing terrible things so that good people could live in peace. But the brutal reality is that the military didn't just train you to be a weapon. They fundamentally rewired your humanity. You will survive this war. You are too good at your job to die here. Eventually, the Nazis will surrender. The world will celebrate. There will be parades, medals, and confetti. You will be sent back on a ship to the United States. You will go back to Pennsylvania. You will put on a suit. You will try to sit in a diner and drink a cup of a coffee like a normal man. But you will never be normal again. When a car backfires on the street, you won't hear an engine. You will hear a rifle crack, and your body will instinctively prepare to kill. When you look at a tall building in your hometown, you won't see architecture. You will see a sniper hide. When you shake a man's hand, you won't see a friend. You will see the exact location of his carotid artery. You didn't just assassinate an officer today. You assassinated the man you used to be. You are a machine built for a specific, violent purpose. And when the war ends, there will be no place in the peaceful world for a machine like you. You survived the bell tower. You survived the hunt. But as you sit in the quiet farmhouse, looking at your hands, you finally understand that the ultimate punishment for being the perfect weapon is that you can never be put back in the box. You escaped the battlefield, but the war inside your mind will never, ever end. That's a wrap for today. The story you just heard is heavily inspired by the psychological reality of elite snipers and the mechanics of Sniper Elite 5. Right now, in combat zones around the world, men are looking through optics, calculating the cold math of a human life, knowing that every trigger pull costs them a piece of their own soul. If this deep dive made you think, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next one.